Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
Steve Postell is an American singer, songwriter, guitarist, composer, and producer. He has had a successful, prolific career which spans his days playing with Pure Prairie League, performing on Broadway in shows such as Evita and The Man of La Mancha, and he has written scores for film and television. Steve wrote and produced jingles for Right Sound Music in New York City for clients including Pontiac, AT&T, and others. He has performed live on television on, amongst others, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno and The Today Show with Katie Couric. Steve has collaborated with artists such as John Oates, Becca Bramlett, Jennifer Warnes, Kenny Loggins, Eric Anderson, and many others. Steve's latest offering is a CD called Walking Through These Blues, which was released on Vivid Sound. Up next on Celeb Savant is Steve Postell. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
It's a good question because I have to think about that because when you're on tour, it's kind of a joke from Spinal Tap, but I often have no idea where. I'm in a Hilton hotel. I know that. I think I'm in Cincinnati.
So you mentioned you're on tour. So tell us more about this.
This is a project called Our House, the music of CSNY, and it's a really fun project that was born actually out of a band that David Crosby put together with me and his son James Raymond, and which we got pretty far along in setting up in terms of pick the band, pick the set list, pick the arrangements. I had a couple of rehearsals, started booking gigs, and about a month before the first show, David sadly passed away suddenly. James and I, his son, did a tribute concert about 6-7 months later at the same theater. All the people who bought those tickets, we said, bring your tickets, come to the show. It was a lovely show with Sean Colvin, Colin Hay, and Richard Page, and Chris Stills, and so on. And it was such a beautiful show that interest was spurred, like, hey, Steve, you should keep this going. You should keep playing this music because especially now that Crosby's not around, no one's ever going to be able to hear those guys play the music again. So I recruited my friend Jeff Pilar, who played with David and different versions, Crosby Nash, David Crosby, CSN for 28 years or something. And we've put together a few different versions now. And so we're out here playing a lot of the set list that David and James and I had created to go on tour and sort of honoring that tradition.
That's beautiful. I love that story. So now let's take it all the way back now. At what age, whether you were a child or teenager, did you think, cool, I want to be in this this music world? I know it's a number of years or decades that you've been in the industry. And how did that journey progress?
In a way, I consider myself lucky that I never had to think about what kind of job I was going to get because I was pretty much on this path from 5 or 6 years old on. I was inspired by seeing some young guy sitting in Central Park playing the guitar when I was about 5. My mom was taking me for a walk, and I just was, whatever you believe about why some things attract us, yep. It just floored me. I just couldn't believe how amazing it was. So I kept talking about it. So they took me to, when I was probably 6, or to see Segovia at Town Hall, I believe it was, the classical guitar player. And that, again, just there's something about the instrument, just got inside my DNA or something. And then, of course, the penultimate experience, within the next year, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan's show. And this is something that a lot of people my age shared. A lot of us saw that. And it was really an instantaneous, like, what is that? I have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And then I begged for guitar lessons and eventually got them and got a guitar, and the rest is just a sort of steady progression from those first experiences into a career. But I never really seriously thought about doing anything else.
So you've had different sort of iterations in the career, solo stuff with various bands, collaborating with a bunch of different artists, working with them. How has your career has it been more with collaborations, more solo? What is the balance percentage-wise of the different iterations that you've had?
It's almost like I've lived 9 lives. Yes. Hopefully I'm not on the 9th, because I think that's the end. I think my fascination with music in general was this appetite to just eat it all in. And it led me to, instead of, and having one path, singular path, was great. I wanted to play classical music. I wanted to score films. I wanted to write music. I wanted to play in bands. I wanted to produce. I wanted to know how to engineer. It all appealed to me. And as I've said in other interviews, I decided to not get married, not have kids. I don't even have plants. I don't have pets. I could just play music all the time and have time to explore all these different areas. So at some point I decided that rather than doing one thing, I should be doing this other thing, and to see it all as one homogeneous challenge, which is, how do you create music and record music and perform music, and whether I'm engineering and learning about software, or I'm producing, or I'm whatever I'm doing, I at this point really feel it's all part of the same package for me. It's two things. One, I don't have to have a real job yet. Well, you never know. And two, it's all feeding into that same well of this is a glorious art form, in my opinion. And anything I do that has to do with it. And if it's something that gets repetitive, or I don't feel it anymore, I move on. And that's happened with, I played Broadway shows for 7 years, and that ran its course for me.
So when you say you play Broadway shows, were you part of the band, or were you actually acting in them?
The part of the band, and except for one show, which is called Man of La Mancha. And then Man of La Mancha is a beautiful show, by the way. There's a part written into the show where the guitar player who's in the orchestra is dressed in a costume and jumps up on stage periodically.
As you've mentioned, you've tapped into all these aspects of the music world. Do you perceive, and maybe it's a rhetorical question because you've had your path and you've been open to learning and experiencing and sponging all this information, do you think that has allowed you to maintain longevity compared to an individual who potentially only knows how to play guitar, or only knows how to write songs, or only knows how to be engineering? By having a diversity has allowed you to maintain longevity compared if you'd had only one aspect of knowledge?
Well, it's a very astute question, because actually it was the fear of only having one thing to do. I'll tell you the story. It's up until maybe I was 16, all these other things didn't cross my mind. Writing a score, or going to be either in a rock band or a solo guy, make records, and then but I also did other arts, and I painted as well. And I was in a very small, beautiful painting class that was taught by a guy named Norman Rabin, who was Sholem Aleichem's son. Sholem Aleichem was a great Yiddish writer, wrote Fiddler on the Roof, and a beautiful teacher. This man. There's only about 10 people in the class, and one of the people in the class was Bob Dylan.
Oh, well.
Who was in his painting phase. But he was also if you know his history, he had a motorcycle accident. And he took maybe a year or two off from making records while he recovered, and was painting during that time. That's when I met him. And in my little 16-year-old brain, I said, well, it's one thing if you're Bob Dylan to take 2 years off. Well, what would I do? And I said, I better go to music school. I better learn how to do a lot of things, so that if, the proverbial motorcycle crash happened, I wouldn't have no money or have no job. So that really did spur me on to look at let me get some tools so that if one thing isn't happening musically, there's another thing happening musically. Now that's not I've thought about what would have happened if I had been more singular, because I know a lot, I'm friends with a lot of these guys who, I'll just name someone who I know, Jackson Browne, for example. So he was a teenager and Geffen discovered him. That was it. He was writing songs and recording songs. I'm not saying he doesn't do that stuff, but that happened for him so quickly and so beautifully that he didn't have any need or desire to learn all these crazy things that I've learned how to do, even though he's extremely well-versed artist. So I thought about that, what would it have been like if I did just written songs, but I don't think I enjoy all the other things. I enjoy all the different aspects of the creative process that I, through attrition, have learned how to do. And
what's the difference for you in your experience between being part of a band, I read your bio, you've been part of a couple of bands, and doing stuff solo?
Well, it's a lot lonelier doing stuff solo. But on the other hand, when you're doing something solo, you don't have to fight with anybody. I enjoy the collaborative aspect of the music making process. Even right now, with this beautiful band touring with us right now, and just to play with these guys every night and this woman and interplay with the different instruments and voices and the harmonies and to me, that's the most joyful thing, is how collaborative and how integrated people can come together and be one thing. And Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young was a great example for totally separate entities and artists in their own right. They came together and created this fabulous of art that was the four of them. So there's some fun things about playing solo. I just did a show with where I played half the night. Bruce Coburn did half the night, and I did it solo because he was doing it solo. But at the end, I came out and played 6 songs with him, and that was really fun for both of us to have the 2 guitars and interest person. So the only thing with solo is you can do whatever you want. You can change a song in the middle. You can change the tempo. You can change the chords. You can extend it. You have total freedom to sort of rewrite your song in the moment if you feel like it. When I play solo, I don't even have a set list. I have all my songs on an iPad, hundreds of songs, and I'll go, I feel like playing this one now. But given the choice, I really like, even if it's just a duo, I like the interplay between musicians.
What else do you enjoy about performing live?
Well, to me, that's the ultimate musical expression. It's the thing I love the most. It's the thing I loved the most growing up to see. I mean, I loved listening to my records, but nothing compared to going and seeing a concert. I mean, the concerts that inspired me so much from Segovia on. I mean, I was very lucky. I grew up in a very fertile era in New York City. So every weekend of my life, I go from seeing Doc Watson, and then I'd see Duke Ellington, and then I'd see Mahavishnu Orchestra, and then I'd see, every weekend it was different. And Tim Hardin, Little Club. And when you're playing and there's an audience, you are participating together in an experience. As the artist, you're feeding off the energy, and you're helping to create the energy, but you're feeding off of it. And it's very much in the moment. It's very present. You have to be very present. That moment's not going to repeat. You don't get to fix it in a mix. You don't get to re-record it. Every once in a while, maybe you screw up and stop a song and say, I'm going to play that again. So that is a very special experience musically and sort of karmically, cosmically, like this magic that happens between people listening to music and experiencing it and you playing it, that I don't think, for me personally, can't be matched in the studio or any other way.
So I'm that dude that's right up in front. I'll take my cell phone out for 1 or 2 songs 1 or 2 videos, 1 or 2 photos. I notice these days, especially the last 5 or 8 years, people are, during the concerts, videoing a lot, tweeting, posting, a lot of those type of elements. Do you feel from the person on the stage, seeing that it takes away from that energy and that experience and being in the moment that you reference, or it's just where society is at this stage?
Well, we get asked, are you okay with what's your policy on photographs and video? I said, have at it. I mean, the more, let's be honest, right now, being on social media, the more stuff that's out there, the better. I mean, a friend of mine texted me 2 days ago. Oh, I just found this video of you and Crosby, and I love it. So great. I said, what video? What are we playing? Oh, we were playing Joni Mitchell's song for free. Well, I didn't know that was on YouTube. I go, there's like 150,000 views. I think that's great that that's up there. So I have no problem. And also, don't forget that when you're performing, you can't see. Like, I can't see the audience, really. And there's lights in my eyes. I can see, like, the first 2 rows.
Yes.
If they have their cameras out and their phones out, I don't know. So, I mean, I will say that looking at some big concerts, especially with younger audiences, and you've got, 15,000 kids who are looking at their phone and not at the stage.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of that. But I don't mind someone filming a song or taking a picture. I think it's cool.
So you've been in the industry for a while. I'd love your observation of this discussion. So I love me a CD. I love the journey of the choice, the unpacking, the experience, the song from 1 to whatever number. I'm not sure if you're aware that physical's on a massive comeback. Last year in the UK alone, 5.9 million vinyl sold, the biggest since 1990. Also last year in the UK, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on, and there needs to be a certain amount of exchanges happening per day for product to be in that basket. And because of the upsurge of CDs again, CDs are now back in the basket. And the research is showing that it's the teenagers, it's the younger kids buying into this world, not necessarily the older nostalgic people. Then again, we have the streaming platforms that people consume music on. What are your observations of the landscape at the moment?
Well, it's interesting because I of course grew up with records, and I love the whole the physicality of holding this thing and looking at the liner notes. And
Yep.
I also love the sound. People make a lot out of it, but it's true. I mean, if you put on a record, it sounds better than all these other formats. It just does. In the last few years, I'll be at a show and I'll say, I brought a CD, my CDs. How many people in the audience have a CD player? And like, if there's 300 people, there'd be 8 people raise their hands. Like, people don't have them in their cars. A lot of people don't even have them in their homes anymore. I've been working with this company called the Musical Bead, BEAD. And we have, I don't think I have one on to show you, but it's a card that's the size of a credit card. And it's an NFC technology. You tap the phone and boom, my record's in your phone.
Oh, wow.
Plus other content, all the liner notes, a video if I want, a bonus track. I've taken those out on the road with the new label. Is labeled them with Puerto Valley Records, partnered with these guys. And that's pretty exciting to me because it's not streaming per se.
Yeah.
But it is in a way. And and you can add and you can change content. You could, someone buys one of these cards and I want to add a song. Next time they go on my thing, that song is there. So I like technology. I like where that's going. Of course, I wish people still had the experience of having a tube-driven Macintosh receiver and some amazing speakers, and putting a record on. Like, that is a sublime experience that you don't get with a little earbud listening to this.
Exactly. You mentioned you're on tour. What's coming up over the next couple of months or few months?
Well, we'll finish this tour. We have 5 more shows. This is called Our House, the music of CSNY. It's been just wonderful. And then the next thing, then actually I'm doing an interesting, there's a label in California called Santa Barbara Records, and they're hosting a concert with their artists, with a full orchestra doing David Crosby songs and some of the artists singing them. And I'll play in that with David's son, James Raymond, and a great band. And then there also something that I have to get back to as soon as I get back. So I'm in this band called The Immediate Family, which you mentioned, which is myself, Danny Korchmar, Waddy Wachtel, Leland Sklar, and Russ Kunkel. And as many people know, the four of them are on thousands, literally, not exaggerating, thousands of records, many of them the classic records that we all have grown up listening to. So they either wrote or produced or played on some of the greatest songs of all time. Well, in the last 6-7 years, we made 2 records and 2 EPs of new original music that we were writing. But in all the concerts, we only do half the new stuff, and half of it we do Somebody's Baby and Dirty Laundry and Werewolves of London, and we do all these great songs. We need to record our versions of these because people love to hear. So we recorded a full LP length record of 11 of the sort of the Jackson Browne, James Taylor, Don Henley, the great hits these guys, Warren Zevon, were involved with. So when I get back, I'll get together with Waddy and this guy, Nico Bolas, a wonderful engineer, and we'll mix that record. That's recorded. And then I'll start to play off of my new record and play shows and put together a couple little tours and just keep moving forward.
Tell us more about your new record.
It's called Walking Through These Blues. It's on Quarto Valley Records. So I'm always writing and recording. I have a nice recording studio, but I've had my own recording studio for many, many years, and which I originally started doing so that I didn't have to go somewhere to record music. I don't have to lay out money and time and travel somewhere every time I want to record music. So I'm always compiling new music that I'm recording, and then I've sort of, whether sometimes I have a label, sometimes I don't. Right now, I'm fortunate I do, but when I have 12 or 14 songs I like, it's like, oh, I guess it's time to make a record, So this time I had a bunch of songs that I liked and I started to record them, and I got pretty deep into it, which is how come I have people like David Crosby and on the record and Jeff Young, they're no longer with us, and then COVID really hit. It didn't stop the process, but it meant I couldn't have people coming to the studio. And it also meant that I wasn't going out and playing. And I feel that, if you're the Rolling Stones, you could put out a record and not have to go perform. I'm not that. And so my management and myself felt like, look, if I can't play, we shouldn't release this record. And that's fine. The advantage of it for me was that I had lots of time to write some more, record some more, get other guests on it who might not have been available if I had to finish it right then. So as the record got really close to being done, then Immediate Family put out a record. So I didn't want to put out a record and compete with my own record.
Yeah.
So I waited till that record was kind of done its thing. And the new one we have isn't going to come out for a while. So the timing was right. There's a lot of beautiful guests on us that mentioned David Crosby and Glenn Phillips from Toad the Wet Sprocket and Becca Bramlett and Greg Lease from Jackson's band. A lot of great, and all the guys from the Family are on it. I'm really proud of it and happy with it because I also had so much time to develop it, write a couple more songs, mix it a zillion times. So I was happy. And so for me, it's a really excellent representation of where I'm at in my life as a songwriter right now.
Steve, I love this game. I know if I had to ask you this question in 2 minutes, 10 years, 20 years, I know your answer will be different every time. I'm not saying favorite, I'm saying top of mind. If you had to push play to 5 artists once we finish this conversation, who would those 5 artists be? And if you can think of specific songs from those artists, what would those songs be?
The question could have different nuances. There's who's who's the most influential, or what would you take with you on a desert island, But if I could only, let's say I could only have 5 records, I'd have to have a Beatles record.
Okay.
I have to have that. And which one that would be, it's kind of cheating to say the White Album because it's really 2 records. It's either the Sgt. Pepper, it might be, I'd have to really think about which one of the records, because to me, the Beatles are the beginning, middle, and end of popular music. There will never be anything else like it. And, they're why I do what I do. It's it's funny because I did one of a written interview had me name the 10 most influential records in my life. So I should know the answer to your question because I just wrote this a couple months ago. I think I'd have to say that in terms of personal influence, the first Jimi Hendrix record kind of blew my mind as a young, and opened up, so you can do this. You can have this kind of amalgamation of, it's R&B with psychedelic with this guitar. That was pretty profoundly moving and influential for me. I think Joni Mitchell had a really huge impact on me. Just that the depth of poetry and melody and writing and emotional impact that music had really gave me license to explore that, and stands way up there for me. There is so much, of course, that there are categories, like the Motown records.
Yes.
The reason it's harder with that is, for at least in the way Motown did records is they generally would have sort of some not bad songs, but filler songs. So it's not full records. It's so there'd be like 4 amazing songs and then some whatever. But just the Motown scene for me musically was, listening to Aretha and Marvin Gaye and all of that music. Some of it on Motown, some on Atlantic, but the R&B sound, I should say, Al Green, Donny Hathaway, that music, which came out of kind of gospel and rhythm and blues, really impacted me really greatly. And then, of course, there's the impact, I have to say, of Dylan. Just this one guy with his guitar writing these stories and these sort of long form, they're poems, but they're, some people have asked me, what's the first song you ever wrote? The first song I ever wrote when I was 13 was called Mr. Sandman. And I was so excited, and I went to school and played it. One of my friends said, "Isn't that the same melody as Mr. Tambourine Man?" I had inadvertently stole. So my first song I ever wrote was a Bob Dylan song. Look, I've been a connoisseur and a digester of music of all genres.
Exactly. I know if I had to ask you this question again now, yes, the Beatles and a couple will still be there, but it will be a different mix and a different focus. So that's why I love this conversation, because it changes all the time, and it's not about favorites. It's about, okay, this is what I'm going to play now, and it'll change in 2 minutes' time.
I finally unearthed, I have an amazing record collection, but it was in storage for years, 20 years, I think. And I finally built an outdoor shed from like 2000. I threw 2000 out that I knew I'd never listened to, and kept a couple thousand, bought a turntable. And then I was like, what is the first thing I'm going to play? The first record I played was Stevie Wonder, Inner Visions. It was so magnificent, so that day, that mood, that was the record I played that day.
The podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
I'd love it if you went out and listened to my music. But what I'd like to say is that touring around, one of the things that you see is, first of all, these beautiful theaters all over this country and all over the world. I've played them in Germany and Mexico, and unless people go see live music, these theaters, they're either gonna have to turn into skating rinks or something else, And honestly, the audiences that come see the kind of music that the Media Family or Our House or David Crosby plays, they're not young audiences. So I guess my message would be, please don't forget how beautiful live music is.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.